People with law enforcement and military experience will sometimes make assertions as to how skillful with small arms that experience got them. So, based on real data, how good are military and law enforcement personnel compared to the general public, or compared to people with no training at all? And how does that compare to people that are genuinely good? A study by Force Science Institute compared the skill of trained police officers to what they called naive shooters. That is, people with no shooting experience whatsoever. Shooters were broken up into three groups: a so-called expert class, personnel who had completed law enforcement firearms qualification; an intermediate class, that's people with recreational experience only; and a novice class, people with minimal or no experience with firearms at all. They found the difference across the board between trained and untrained personnel about 13% and sometimes less. The marksmanship training cadre I worked for about a quarter of a century once had an opportunity to conduct a similar test with Army personnel. Our team worked with both combat arms and service personnel with a wide range of experience. We worked with service support units that openly admitted to having personnel that had not qualified in a 5 or 10 year period, in some cases having not qualified since basic. We also had combat arms units where they were self-described gun experts. The KD range we were using had a large stack of the old international rapid fire targets as used in the Olympics. The benefit to us is that this provided an internal scoring area rather than just a simple hit or miss full-size silhouette. Shooting 10 shots prone at 300, 10 shots kneeling at 200, and 10 shots standing at 100, our cadre typically scored in the 280 range out of 300 possible. We recommended to students to strive to get at least 200 or better. No great surprise, but the units that had the least amount of experience generally did not as well. Despite receiving instruction from us, they never averaged as high as we would have liked. Typically in the low 140s, we'd get 2 to 4 out of about 100 personnel that could meet our suggested average. The combat arms personnel did do better, but not as much as you might think, like as in less than 10%. Instead of averaging in the low 140s, they'd average in the mid to high 160s. And they'd get maybe 6, 7, maybe 8 out of 100 that could break that suggested 200. As both of these data points demonstrate, the difference in skill amongst so-called experienced combat arms or law enforcement personnel is not much better than people of limited or sometimes even no experience. You're typically not going to see much more than a 10 to 20% difference in measurable skill, and very often it's less than that.